Halloween Horror Nights, what the heck is going on? We have to talk about this. We have been getting some crazy announcements over the past week, and literally a week. I don't feel like it's been any longer. The past 3 days, we have gotten house announcements. I'm actually anticipating that we get another house announcement tomorrow, potentially even the next day. At this point, we have 4 original house announcements for HHN 2024. I don't know what we're calling it. Are we calling it HHN 33? Are we calling it HHN 24? Are we calling it HHN 2024? I don't know. I'm just gonna use them all interchangeably at this point. Either way, I have them up behind me here, all of the announcements that they have released. Also, if you're not, I would definitely check out the Instagram for Halloween Horror Nights Orlando. They are releasing everything on there, and that is where we are kind of getting all of our information. So the first up house that we had announced was Slaughter Cinema 2. And this, I believe, was announced at Spooky Empire, if I'm not mistaken. And they had a character come out, they made this announcement, and people were pretty jazzed up about it. I don't think anyone was really expecting it, and especially like an original house, which was kind of interesting. So I don't know, that was neat. As far as my anticipation for that house, I never did the original Slaughter Cinema. I am still relatively new to Halloween Horror Nights, so I don't go back too far, but I think it seemed pretty okay, and I was more interested in the fact that they released an original house versus an IP-based house for their first announcement. Now that being said, we then followed up with some new merchandise, which we covered in the park, and we kind of talked a little bit about it, which it's kind of similar to the same style that we got for the first merch drop for 2024. But this one was a little bit more sporadic. They kind of had little blips of everything in there. Directly following that merch drop, we were hit day after day with new house announcements. So technically the second house announced was then Goblins Feast. And this was like the first just kind of like social media based announcement. And this one was kind of intriguing to me because number one, again, it was an original house. But number two, anybody that knows like goblins and orcs and things like that of the fantasy nature understand that they're very different, right? They have such unique personalities. I feel like goblins tend to be very greedy, very kind of like sly, and just they're a little weird. You have orcs, which kind of are known to be almost a little aggressive, a little bit more hot-headed, and potentially a little bit like not as smart. You know, you kind of think of like orcs being like these big, like dumb, strong guys that walk around. So I don't know where they're gonna go, if they're gonna be feuding at all, or if it's just gonna be you're showing up to this fest and you know you're the one that is ultimately on their plates, or they want you to be their meal. So it's gonna be interesting. I was really excited for it when I first like heard about it, because I'm like, this is like kind of fantasy-esque, plus like, I don't know, I played video games where I played as like a goblin character. Obviously, anyone that has played like a World of Warcraft, I had played back in the day, and I loved my little goblin. So like to me, I feel like that was like a huge part of my childhood. So it was cool to see them make this announcement. However, I don't really know where they're going with it, and I don't really know what the set is going to be. So for me, this one, I don't know. I am excited, but it's just, I was super excited and then kind of lost it a little bit in time just because I'm like, I don't know the scenario. Now the next house that we got announced would be the third house, and again, another original house, and that is Major Sweets Candy Factory. Now out of the 4 houses, I'll just let you know right now, this is my most anticipated, at least out of these 4. And I was just talking with Nicole, I'm like, this could be like a top 3 most anticipated, potentially number 1. Because if I were to ask you, what is a horror-based candy factory scenario? I bet you 99% of you would say Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory, Gone Horror. And if they can pull this off, I think it's gonna be fantastic. And I'm already thinking where Dueling Dragons was last year, you kind of went down that hallway and they kind of had like bits of the story being told. Imagine that's filled with like candy and whatever, and then you turn the corner. The facade as you walked into the Dueling Dragons house was amazing. It was like this giant like tree thing, and just like it looked awesome. Imagine if that's the front of the factory and there's like moving parts in there and you see like the cog wheels, but also it's kind of like candy. This house can be amazing. And I think if they do this house really well, this could be potentially people's like number one this year. I know I'm making like broad statements already, but I'm just trying to think of the fact that like Major Sweets was such a good scare zone. Like Sweet Revenge, people loved it. I think it was a fun vibe. The set pieces were awesome. The character design I think was like top notch. I think it was like really cool to see such a variation. They played into like this festival really well, and they had like the candy stand with like the heads, and I don't know, it was just so good. And I'm assuming Major Sweets is gonna be your tour guide along this way, so it'll be cool to see how he kind of shows up along the path. And yeah, this is gonna be awesome. I think this house is going to be really cool. But finally, we have the museum deadly exhibits. So this one is interesting because first hearing about the announcement, I'm like, this might be, out of the 4 houses that we have announced right now, my least anticipated, because it feels super vague. Like museum, not a location of a museum, deadly exhibits, it's not honing in. The description does talk about kind of this like figure-y thing, or I think it's maybe like an apparition, whatever it is, that is kind of wreaking havoc. It seems like maybe taking over some of the figures and just like the exhibits ultimately inside of the museum. So I think with that, maybe there's something unique that could come to life. I do think though, because it's this figure thing that's taking over exhibits, it kind of lets them have free reign of what they want to do. So you could bring like a knight statue to life, you could bring like a giant dinosaur to life, so you could get some puppets, because ultimately the entire museum is at the like exposure to whatever they want to do, right? So that is kind of cool, and I think that could really bring things to life. And again, if they go into one of the giant sound stages with this and have like these grand scale exhibit looking things and kind of like bring it to life really well, could be pretty sweet. Either way, I just wanted to do a quick video and just talk about it. I wasn't expecting to talk that much HHN for at least another month or 2 as we started to get more announcements, but they've just been coming back to back to back, and tomorrow to back again is gonna be my guess. Again, 10:33 a.m. Mark your little timers, calendars, everything, because that's when they've been doing these announcements. My guess is because it's 33, so it's like, you know, HHN 33, they're doing it. 10 is like October, so it's like, that's kind of where that's my assumption. I don't know if it is, maybe they're playing on something. But we did also get that reveal trailer of whatever is growing and has festered underneath Universal Orlando. If you guys did watch that trailer, that was really cool. So I don't know where all of this is going right now, but I think it's just like information overload for everybody right now. And we're all just like, what do we do? We're all running around with like papers, just throwing them. And it's just like a dumpster fire, just like what's happening? And we're trying to make sense of it right now, because I don't know if this has ever happened where it's been this frequent for original houses number 1 and number 2, like this back to back this early in the season. One thing really quickly I do want to point out is I actually appreciate that we're announcing the original houses before the IPs, because anytime they release the IP houses, all of the originals get kind of shoved under the rug and people aren't as like excited about them. Where right now they're getting you excited about these originals, then they can release the IPs, and that way it doesn't just totally overshadow whatever the originals might be. That's my assumption why they're doing that, is to just keep the hype between the originals and the IPs as they are, or maybe there's something with IPs that I don't know. But either way, that's my assumption, is they want people to be excited about the originals and not necessarily only the IPs, because I feel like that happened last year where the IPs just overshadowed the originals so much that the anticipation for the originals just wasn't there, where the IPs kind of took the cake. And I feel like that is probably every year, but this year, with the way they're doing announcements, I think helps bring to light these original houses. Either way, let me know in the comments what house you are most excited for out of these 4 announced, and I guess at this point, if there's the 5th that is already released, go ahead and add that one to the list. Either way, I guess it's HHN season, so we'll see you in the next one. Take care.